Hollywood's golden age is remembered as a magical time, filled with bright lights, elegant stars, and movies that shaped the future of cinema forever. People still imagine that era as a world of perfection, where actors and actresses live glamorous lives without fear or worry. But behind the beautiful faces, shiny clothes, and perfect smiles, many stars carry deep secrets that they fear would destroy their careers and their lives. Paul Newman, known across the world as a symbol of honesty, strength, and charm, lived through that era and saw the truth behind the glittering walls of Hollywood. Before his death, he finally opened up about the people he admired the most. Talented actors who hid their real identities because the world was not ready to accept them. Newman spoke with pain in his voice, because he knew that in those days, being openly gay could end a career in a single night. The fear was so strong that studios forced actors to marry, date, or pretend to be straight just to keep fans happy and protect their brand. Newman remembered how the system controlled everything: who you could love, who you could be seen with, and even what you were allowed to say. People today may find it shocking, but back then, the film studios controlled the personal lives of actors like strict parents controlling children. He explained that he watched close friends live double lives, happy on screen but suffering and lonely off screen. Some of these stars became his lifelong friends, and he carried their secrets with him for decades. He would later say that Hollywood's golden shine was often just a mask hiding the truth. Newman believed that the world should know the struggle these stars went through, and he wanted younger generations to understand the pressure people face for simply being themselves. He was careful not to expose anyone in a harmful way, but he spoke respectfully about the bravery it took to survive in that world. To Newman, the real heroes of that era were the actors who acted every day, not just in movies, but in real life, pretending to be someone society wanted, while hiding their true hearts. The weight of that silence was something he never forgot. Paul Newman explained that the Golden Age studios had a silent rule: everyone must appear perfect, and perfect meant straight. Back then, Hollywood believed that audiences would reject any actor who did not fit this image. As a result, many gay actors lived in constant fear. They were watched by studio spies, controlled by publicists, and warned never to be caught in private moments with the people they loved. Newman witnessed all of this from up close, and as someone who cared deeply about fairness, it troubled him deeply. He remembered friends who were talented, handsome, and kind, but forced to hide their relationships. Some even had to enter fake marriages arranged by the studio to convince the public that they were normal. Paul Newman later confessed that the system broke people from the inside. Many actors drank heavily, some isolated themselves, and a few even quit Hollywood entirely because they couldn't handle the pressure. Newman felt that Hollywood robbed these people of their freedom and joy. He also talked about how lonely some of the biggest stars truly were. These were people adored by millions, but unable to share their real life or their real love with the world. Newman revealed that some stars trusted him because they knew he was different. He didn't judge them, didn't gossip, and didn't use their secrets for personal gain. He understood the importance of privacy, and he tried to be a safe space in a world built on lies. He said the worst part was watching people pretend to be someone else all day on set, only to go home and pretend again in their personal life. The constant acting wore them down. Some of Newman's closest friends would cry in frustration, asking why the world hated something so natural. Newman would later say that he wished he had spoken earlier, but back then, the world was dangerous and unforgiving. Even straight allies like him had to be careful, because supporting gay actors publicly could damage one's career. He carried the weight of their story for years, and before he died, he wanted people to know that these stars were not weak. They were incredibly strong for living with so much pressure and still shining on screen. Newman's memories included famous names people still celebrate today, and although he never exposed anyone disrespectfully, he offered hints about who struggled the most under Hollywood's strict system. He talked about the actors who were praised for their masculine image, actors who played tough guys, romantic heroes, or brave cowboys. Those roles made them icons, but behind the scenes, they were terrified of being discovered. Newman said one of these stars was a man he admired greatly, a brilliant performer whose talent lit up every scene. This actor never got to show his true self to the world. He would meet lovers in secret locations, sometimes far from Hollywood, just to feel free for a few hours. Newman recalled the fear in his friend's eyes when a studio executive discovered one of these secret meetings. The executive threatened to destroy the actor's career if he didn't follow their rules. From that day on, the actor lived with anxiety, knowing that a single rumor could ruin everything he had worked for. Newman also talked about actresses who were forced into marriages or relationships they didn't want. One actress, known for her elegance and beauty, told Newman she felt like she was acting in real life more than in movies. She had to appear on red carpets holding the arm of a man she didn't love, while the woman she truly cared about had to stay hidden, arriving separately and leaving silently through back doors. Newman believed that society created this suffering by refusing to accept people for who they were. In his later interviews, he tried to show the world that being gay was not a scandal. It was simply a part of human identity. He said these stars deserved respect for surviving a world that forced them to hide their hearts. Newman felt protective of them, and even in old age, he spoke with emotion, remembering the times they trusted him with their truth. He believed it was time for people to understand that Hollywood's golden age was beautiful on the surface, but underneath, many people were hurting. By sharing their stories, Newman hoped to bring healing, understanding, and acknowledgement to those who suffered silently. Hollywood in the middle of the 20th century was not just a place where movies were made. It was a world of bright lights, powerful studios, strict rules, and secrets that were never allowed to escape. Many people today see old Hollywood as glamorous, classy, and full of charm, but behind those shining faces were men and women who lived in fear every single day. This was especially true for actors who were gay or bisexual. Back in those years, being openly gay in the film industry was not only risky, it was almost impossible. Big studios controlled everything. The movies, the media, the image of every star, and even their personal lives. If an actor behaved in a way that did not fit the perfect image the studio created, their career could be destroyed overnight. Reporters followed them everywhere. Magazines wrote lies to protect or destroy reputations, and studios made sure the public only saw what they wanted them to see. For many stars, this meant living a double life. Some actors married people they did not love just to stop rumors. Some hid their relationships for years. Others were forced to sign contracts promising they would act straight in public. The pressure was unbelievable, and it broke many hearts behind closed doors. This hidden world became even more interesting many years later, when Paul Newman, one of the most respected actors in history, opened up about people he knew during that time. Newman was known as a gentleman, a kind man, and someone who spoke honestly when he believed the truth could help others. So when he talked about Hollywood's secret side, people listened very carefully. Newman explained that the golden age of Hollywood was full of stars who were secretly gay, but they had no freedom to live openly. He was never interested in exposing them in a harsh or negative way. Instead, he wanted people to understand what these actors went through, how much pain they carried, and how much strength it took to work in an industry that demanded silence. These were not small names. Some were major stars whose faces were known around the world. Their movies were blockbusters, their posters sold millions, and fans dreamed of meeting them. But they could never show the world who they truly were. Newman spoke gently about how Hollywood used to work, how agents would tell actors to fix their image if they acted too comfortable with their real selves, how tabloids waited eagerly to publish scandals, and how studio bosses believed that audiences would reject any actor who did not appear perfectly masculine or feminine. The heartbreaking truth is that many stars felt trapped. They wanted love, they wanted honesty, but they also wanted to survive in the business they loved, so they chose silence. Newman remembered conversations at parties, quiet confessions during late-night filming, and moments when fellow actors trusted him with the truth because he was one of the few people who never judged them. These memories stayed with Newman for years, and later in his life, he shared them not to create gossip, but to shine a light on the difficult lives people lived during those controlling Hollywood years. He knew revealing these stories after their deaths could not harm them anymore, and instead, it could help the world understand how cruel the industry used to be to anyone who did not fit the mold. His words became a reminder that the golden age was beautiful on screen, but behind the scenes, it was a place where many people suffered silently. When Paul Newman looked back on his early days in Hollywood, he often talked about how the industry controlled the lives of actors more than people ever realized. He remembered how young performers would arrive in the city with big dreams and open hearts, hoping to change the world with their talent. But once they stepped inside the studios, everything changed. Hollywood in the 1950s and 1960s was like a giant machine, cold, powerful, and focused only on profits and public image. If an actor was seen as different, the studio bosses saw it as a threat. Newman described the atmosphere as a place where everyone smiled on camera but lived carefully behind closed curtains. Each word, each movement, each friendship was silently judged by producers, managers, and tabloids that wanted to create the perfect illusion for the audience. It was during these early years that Newman first met several actors who were hiding their true identities. Some were quiet about it, some struggled, and some trusted Newman enough to share their truth privately. He never betrayed them. He never tried to expose anyone. Instead, he carried their stories with him like gentle secrets, knowing how painful it must have been for them to hide who they were in a world that demanded perfection. Newman later said that the saddest thing he ever saw was not the pressure to be handsome, strong, or flawless. It was a fear in their eyes when they worried that one mistake could end everything. These actors lived in constant tension. They avoided walking too closely with someone they cared about. They avoided eye contact that lasted a second too long. They avoided parties where reporters gathered because one wrong rumor could ruin their life. Some of them married quickly, not out of love, but out of fear. Some created fake relationships with co-stars because it made them appear safe to the public. Studios even arranged these relationships, paying magazines to take photographs that showed happy couples in perfectly planned poses. Newman revealed how heartbreaking these arrangements were. He said that many people looked happy in photographs, but when the camera stopped flashing, their smiles faded instantly. These were people who wanted love like everyone else, but the world they lived in refused to let them have it. It was especially painful for Newman because he believed that love should never be hidden. He believed that people deserved to show affection openly, without being punished for who they were. And yet, he watched some of the brightest talents in Hollywood live in darkness, pretending to be someone they were not. Newman spoke about one conversation that stayed in his heart forever. A fellow actor, charming, famous, and adored by millions, once told him, "Paul, I'm tired of acting when I'm not even on set." That simple line broke Newman's heart. It made him realize that these stars were not acting just for movies. They were acting in their real lives every single day. Paul Newman also saw how the pressure damaged people emotionally. Some began drinking too much, not because they enjoyed it, but because it helped them silence their fear. Others became distant, refusing to form real friendships because they were terrified someone might discover their truth. It was a lonely way to live, and Newman never forgot how deep the pain ran. As he grew older and more respected, he tried quietly to support people who felt trapped. He was never loud about it. He believed in kindness, understanding, and privacy. But he offered a safe space, a listening ear, and a judgment-free heart. That was who Paul Newman was, an actor with talent, but a man with compassion. And when he finally spoke about those years, long after many of those actors had passed away, he did not for gossip, but to honor their hidden courage. He wanted the world to know that these stars lived with a strength the world never saw, surviving in an industry that refused to accept them. Newman's gentle honesty opened the door to conversations about Hollywood's hidden past, reminding everyone that behind every shining star was a human being with feelings, fears, and dreams that deserved to be respected. As Paul Newman continued to reflect on those early Hollywood days, he often said that the industry had two different faces. One face was shown to the public, polished, perfect, sparkling with glamour and excitement. The other face, the private one, was filled with fear, secrets, and rules that controlled people's lives more than anyone could imagine. Newman explained that the studio system was like a powerful parent that wanted to control every detail of its children's lives. If the studio bosses decided an actor should be seen as a heartthrob, then that actor had no choice but to play the part both on screen and off. If a star's private life did not match the image the studio wanted, then the studio found ways to fix it. And if someone did not listen, they were replaced. This was a silent threat everyone understood. Newman remembered one star in particular, a talented and handsome man whose films were always hits. The world adored him. Men wanted to be like him. Women wanted to be with him. But what the world never knew was that he lived in constant fear of being exposed. Newman recalled how this star told him that every time he opened a newspaper, he expected to see his name in a scandal headline. "I wake up every morning wondering if this is the day my career ends," he whispered to Newman once during a quiet moment on set. That sentence stayed with Newman for decades because it showed how much pressure these actors carried in silence. Studios had entire departments whose only job was to protect their stars' images. They created fake stories, arranged relationships, and even paid people to lie if it helped keep a secret hidden. Sometimes they threatened reporters, and sometimes they bribed them. The goal was always the same: keep the illusion alive. Newman said this image-making machine destroyed many people from the inside. He talked about how the fear of being discovered overshadowed everything in their lives. These stars could never fully relax. They could never truly trust anyone, not even their closest friends. They lived behind masks so convincing that sometimes even they forgot who they were when they were alone. Newman described how many of the actors he met became experts at changing their voice, their body language, even the way they laughed depending on who was around. They trained themselves to act straight, as the studios demanded. It was painful to watch because these were talented, kind, beautiful people who deserved to live freely, yet they were trapped by the rules of a business that claimed to love them but refused to accept them as they were. In his later years, Newman admitted that he sometimes felt guilty. He was one of the lucky ones. He could live honestly, comfortably, and without fear, but he knew others didn't have that privilege. So he listened to their stories, protected their truths, and carried their pain in his heart long after the cameras stopped rolling. Newman said that the saddest evenings of his life were the ones where he watched his friends pretend to be happy while holding hands with someone they didn't love. These public appearances were required by the studios, carefully planned to make the stars look normal in the public eye. But Newman could see the emptiness in their expressions, the loneliness that flickered in their eyes when flashes of cameras became too bright. He also remembered how some of these stars talked about love as if it were a luxury they were not allowed to have. One actor confessed to him, "I can be famous, but I can't be myself." That painful truth broke Newman's heart because it showed how deeply the industry controlled them. Newman believed that no one should have to hide their heart to keep their job, and he knew that some of these actors, whose names are still loved today, suffer more than anyone could see. When Newman finally spoke about them later in life, he did it with tenderness. He didn't reveal names to embarrass them. He revealed their stories to honor what they endured, to show the world that behind the perfect posters and charming smiles were real people fighting silent battles every day. Newman hoped that by telling their stories, even in small ways, he could help future generations understand the true cost of the Hollywood dream during its golden age as Paul Newman grew older and more experienced in the industry. He began to see Hollywood with clearer eyes. When he first arrived, he was just another young actor trying to make his way in a world filled with powerful directors, demanding producers, and strict image makers. But as the years passed and he became more successful, he started to understand the deeper layers of that glamorous world. Layers filled with stories that were never meant to be told. Newman later explained that fame in old Hollywood did not belong to the actors themselves. It belonged to the studios. The studios decided how an actor should look, how they should dress, what they should say in interviews, and even who they should date. It was like being trapped inside a beautiful cage. From the outside, it sparkled, but from the inside, it felt heavy, lonely, and controlled. And for gay actors, that cage was even smaller and darker. Newman remembered that some of the most famous stars of the Golden Age, the ones whose posters hung on bedroom walls, whose smiles filled magazine covers, whose charm won millions of hearts, were the ones carrying the heaviest secrets. He said that these actors were often more talented, more sensitive, and more emotionally intelligent than many others, but the world never gave them the chance to show their true selves. Instead, they had to play a part every day of their lives. Newman said he watched these actors move through their careers like shadows of themselves. They followed every rule perfectly, because they knew the price of breaking even one. Hollywood in those days had no patience, no kindness, and no forgiveness for anyone who did not fit the traditional mold. If word got out that a leading man was gay, his career would disappear instantly. Not slowly, instantly. Producers would fire him. Studios would cancel his contracts. Newspapers would write cruel stories, and the public would turn their backs. The fear of this happening was so strong that it shaped every part of their lives. Newman recalled dinners where friends spoke in low voices, constantly checking the room to make sure no one was listening. He talked about secret relationships that lasted years but could never be spoken about outside closed doors. He remembered how some actors would pretend to be in love with their co-stars during the day, then go home at night and cry because of the loneliness that came from hiding their true hearts. Newman explained that the saddest part was not just the hiding. It was the fact that so many of these stars believed they had no future if they lived honestly. They truly thought that their talent, their work, and their fame meant nothing if the truth ever came out. The industry had convinced them that love was dangerous and honesty was a risk they could never take. One thing Newman always admired about them was their incredible strength. He said that even while carrying this heavy burden, these actors showed up to work every day with a smile, delivering powerful performances that touched the world. They gave everything to the screen, even when their own lives were filled with fear and uncertainty. Newman thought of them as some of the bravest people he ever knew,